Fine. Okay. So let us start. We just actually introduced what is a synchronous motion and what is a synchronous speed. Today actually we are going to deal with there is something called the rotating magnetic field, which is very essential in the case of the three-phase machines, right? So the same concept is used both in the induction machines as well as in the case of the synchronous machines, right? So this is a fundamental concept. Try to understand carefully. This is actually more important from the induction machine point of view rather than the synchronous machines point of view. But here actually we discuss elaborately the concept of the rotating magnetic field, right? So today actually we'll be discussing armature reaction in synchronous machines. Armature reaction in synchronous machines. So to understand this armature reaction, we need to be understanding what is something called the rotating magnetic field, RMF. Rotating magnetic field. First of all, actually, we need to understand what is armature reaction. So armature reaction concept, right? So this is actually a generic concept which is there across all the machines, whether it is a DC machines or AC machines, whether it is a single phase machine or a three-phase machine, it doesn't matter. In all the kinds of machines, there is an armature reaction. So armature reaction is, so whenever actually we try to induce certain amount of the voltage, which we call as an alternator or a generator, and in that actually when there is a load that is there on the armature, then actually there is going to be a load current that is going to be drawn from the armature circuit. Hence this armature circuit, as there is a current flow, obviously it is expected that there is going to be a magnetic field that is going to be induced in the armature along with the main field flux. So main field flux is a cause where it will try to induce the EMF. If there is a load on the machine, then actually it is going to induce certain amount of the current in the armature, and that current actually will induce the magnetic field which is in the counter direction to the main field. So this effect of interaction between the main field flux and the armature flux. So these two together actually will set up a different flux which is not the original flux. So original flux is only the main field flux. Now the armature current actually will try to induce one more magnetic field which will try to reduce or aid actually which will cross magnetize the original main field flux, and this effect is called as the armature reaction. So armature reaction. When there is a load on the armature, when there is a load on the armature current will induce magnetic field armature magnetic field. Armature magnetic field which will have an effect on the main field flux. And this effect is called as the armature reaction. Right? So earlier actually in the case of the DC machines, the armature is on the rotor, which is a rotating part of it, and the main field flux is on the stator, which is a static part of it. And the armature, when it is rotated, there is going to be a current drawn from the armature, and that current actually will try to induce a magnetic field which will have an effect on the static main field flux. But here in alternator, the armature is static but the field is rotating. So it is a reverse process. So the armature which is there on the static part of the machine. So these are the armature locations, right? So these are the armature slots, and this is the main field flux. So this is actually a cylindrical rotor, or actually if you put this in this particular format, which is the salient pole machine. So the field flux is there here, and this is the field winding, and this field winding actually will try to induce the magnetic field, and this magnetic field actually, right? So this magnetic field, whatever is there, it will try to intersect with the conductors which are placed on the static part of the machine, right? So now there is a load on this particular static machine. So as there is a load on the static machine, whatever the power we are going to generate, this is going to be of the three phase. So there are three different terminals that are going to be coming out. This is R, Y, B. So red phase, Y phase, and B phase. Three different phases of the supply actually which is drawn, and each is separated by an angle of 120 degrees. So this is 120 degrees. Again, actually 120 plus 120, this is going to be of 240 degrees. So this is how actually the amount of the voltage that is going to be induced. Now there is a current drawn from this particular RYB phase. So if there is a load that is going to be connected, let us say there is a star connected load, and this star connected load, so this terminal is connected like this, and this terminal is connected like this, and this terminal is connected like this, and this is the load. So this load may be an induction machine, or actually any machine of your own interest. So this is actually just a machine, or actually it may be a big load, which is maybe a big power actually, that is the consumption center. And there actually when it is drawn the current, so there is going to be a current that is going to be drawn by this particular load. Then obviously there is a huge amount of the current drawn from this particular armature circuit. And this static part of, so this rotary part, rotating part, right? So this is the field flux, and this is completely isolated from this, so this armature. So armature actually, whenever it is drawing the current, there is going to be a magnetic field induced within this particular armature conductors. So these are the armature conductors around which actually there is going to be a big amount of the magnetic flux actually that is going to be generated within this, so periphery of this particular armature. And obviously, as there is a main field flux that is here, and this main field flux and this armature flux together actually will intersect with each other, and hence actually there is going to be a resultant magnetic field actually that is going to be generated, and that is essential in the final generation of the EMF, right? And this process actually we call as the armature reaction. Now, what is something called the rotating magnetic field in this particular context? Now, this rotating magnetic field is whatever the armature field that is going to be generated, this armature field will be rotating at synchronous speed. So that's what we call as the armature rotating magnetic field. And we know that actually this rotor, it is rotated at a speed of synchronous speed. Hence, actually there is going to be a EMF that is going to be generated. Now, here if you notice, there are two things that are happening. The rotor is rotated at synchronous speed. Rotated at synchronous speed. And this is rotated by the prime mover. Prime mover means an external rotating machine is called prime mover. So that is, suppose if there is a turbine, the turbine actually it is driven by the water head. So that is the prime mover for us. Suppose if it is a steam engine, then actually there is going to be a steam engine that will rotate the alternator. So that steam engine is called as the prime mover. So that prime mover actually is rotated at a speed of the synchronous speed given by 120 F by P, which is the synchronous speed. So N is the synchronous speed, which is equal to 120 F by P. And where F is the frequency of the supply that it is generated, and where P is the number of poles actually of that particular machine. So the prime mover is rotating this rotor at a synchronous speed. So this is given. Now the armature current actually whatever is drawn, and this is a three-phase supply. So three parallel connections actually are going to be distributed throughout this particular winding. So if there are three different connections that are there, which are parallel circuits, and each is actually separated by an angle of 120 degrees. So this angle of 120 degrees actually, so there are two different kinds of angles I have explained. One is the electrical angle. Another is the mechanical angle. So the electrical angle is nothing but, so whenever there is a complete closed circle, or whenever there is a complete closed cycle, and within that closed cycle actually it will try to generate an angle of 360 degrees. Got it? So an angle of 360 degrees actually it will generate between a pair of poles, two pairs of poles, right? And that is why actually we say that actually one pole is equivalent to 180 degrees of the angle. So that angle is called as the electrical angle. The mechanical angle is nothing but this entire angle. Actually, we usually say that actually this is going to be of 360 degrees for one complete closed circle, right? So mechanical angle is 360 degrees always in a closed circle, but electrical angle is dependent on the number of poles. So if there are two different poles, then it is going to be of 360 degrees, because actually maximum positive to maximum negative, and then maximum negative to maximum positive. So from north pole to south pole to north pole, actually it will give you a complete closed cycle of the EMF that is going to be generated like this. So this is for two poles. That means one pair of poles. So this is going to be a pair of poles. So one pair of poles actually will generate an EMF which is of complete cycle. Now mechanically these are actually distributed by 360 degrees. Now both the concepts are important in the context of identifying this rotating magnetic field. Now this rotating magnetic field, what it is? Now if you take a synchronous machine like this, and this synchronous machine, let us say there are three different phases, and this is, let us say, the axis of R phase. And then actually, so this is the axis of Y phase. And this is the axis of B phase. So RYB. So RYB mean, so R meaning red, Y yellow, B blue. So this is the standard convention of the three-phase system. Actually, that's what we are going to do. Now here actually there are two important things that we need to identify. One is, so the EMF generated is distributed by time of an angle of 120 degrees from each other. 120 degrees from each other. So what do you mean by that? Suppose actually if there is a flux that is going to be generated, let us say this is going to be a phi m, which is the maximum flux generated by the R phase, and then actually there is going to be an EM, so flux actually that is going to be generated here as well. And this actually, the Y phase actually, we know that actually this is going to be in the negative direction of 120 degrees. So this is going to be of 120 degrees, right? So this is a mechanical distribution. This is going to be of positive 120 degrees, right? Now, whenever we talk about the time angle, so time angle is different, space angle is different. Time angle is actually related to the electrical angle. Space angle is related to the mechanical angle. Whatever the angle we have shown here, actually, this is going to be of the space angle, because actually you can notice that actually this is horizontally there, this is in this direction at an angle of 120 degrees, and this is in the direction of at an angle of 120 degrees. Now this is a space distribution. Space distribution of the winding. So that means when it is intersected here, actually this is what actually we have treated this as the R phase, and when the coils here actually, so the coils are located at this particular point, if the magnetic field is intersected at this particular area, that's what we interpreted as actually 120 degrees later, and this is what we call as the Y phase. And after 120 degrees more, actually this winding actually is distributed here, and this is the B phase distribution. So I call this actually, this entire thing actually we divide into the regions like this. So this region actually we can say that actually this is the R phase winding. And this distribution actually, this is the Y phase winding. And this is the B phase winding. So windings are distributed at an angle of 120 degrees. And that is one important fact. Windings are distributed at an angle of 120 degrees from each other mechanically. And electrically what is happening is, suppose if there is R phase like this, and this is of Y phase like this, and this is of B phase like this. Now this is, let us say, this is the electrical angle 120 degrees. What do you mean by electrical angle 120 degrees is, we know that actually one pair of poles will always generate an EMF of complete cycle. Now when there are three different pair of poles, so one pair of poles, three windings are actually crossing each other, then actually the EMF that is going to be generated is, so this is going to be of complete cycle, and this is of R phase. And this is happening when the winding is crossing a pair of poles. Now, along with that winding, actually the other phase winding, maybe the B phase winding or the Y phase winding also will come along with it. And that is actually, one winding is actually 120 degrees later. So like this, actually 120 degrees later, actually it is going to continue. And then actually after 120 degrees more, so this is after 120 degrees more, then that is going to be of 240 degrees. And at 240 degrees, actually there is going to be one more winding. So like this, actually, this is, see this, so this is R phase. So this is the R phase, and this is the Y phase, and this is the B phase. Now these are actually the electrical degrees. Electrical 360 degrees. Now this is mechanical degrees and this is electrical degrees. So this is happening when the winding is crossing a pair of poles. That means what is happening is, now in reality, if you notice, the summary of this entire thing is, in the R phase, when there is a maximum EMF that is going to be induced, and in the Y phase, actually, it's not going to be the maximum value. See this? So this is the maximum value of the R phase. Correspondingly, Y phase and B phase are actually located in the negative direction at this particular location. That means Y phase and B phase voltages are actually negative values and of smaller values when the R phase is maximum. Suppose if you take one more place, let us say I take this particular location. So at this particular location, the B phase is having the maximum negative value, and the R phase and the B phase, R phase and the Y phase will be having the positive value, which is lesser than the B phase value. So like this, actually, at every point, if you notice, the value of the voltages that are going to be generated in each of the phases are completely different. So the windings are distributed space-wise like this. And when this is maximum, the R phase is maximum, Y phase will be having a negative value, smaller value, and B phase will be having a negative value and a positive value and a smaller value. Like this, actually, if you notice, if I try to draw the diagram of it, suppose if the R phase is having a maximum value, so this is the phi m value, and correspondingly, what is happening is the Y phase and B phase. So this actually we usually call this as the Y phase, and this Y phase magnitude is not equal to this particular length. So this is the maximum flux that is going to be generated. But this flux actually very small. This small, actually, how small it is, that is going to be decided by this. See this? This is the maximum value of the R phase flux. And B phase and then actually Y phase flux, actually, it will be smaller value, which is an intersection between these two. So this intersection value, actually, I think it will be somewhere around 60 degrees it is going to happen. Now, this value, and there is one more value like this. So see this length is more and this length is less, and also this is a negative value of flux, and this is also a negative value of the flux. So this is a negative value of the flux, this is a negative value of the flux, and this is the phi m. So distributed by 120 degrees space, But the magnitude of this values also actually is going to be a negative value and a different value than this horizontal line. So to make it more clear, this is more and this is less and this is less. And this is a negative value and this is a negative value. That means if you actually count the amount of the flux, this vector needs to be reversed like this and this vector needs to be reversed like this, and you need to add all these three vectors together, then actually it will give the exact amount of the flux. So this is the entire flux that is going to be generated and this is the resultant flux. So this is the resultant flux. So this is how actually there is going to be a magnetic field that is going to be generated by the armature. I hope you understood this concept. This is a quite complicated concept, but this needs to be understood clearly. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. I will prove it mathematically, how much is the magnitude and how actually it is trying to rotate. Everything I will prove it mathematically, but the concept needs to be understood first. So is the concept clear? So there is two different things that are happening. One is the winding is distributed on the space by an angle of 120 degrees to each other. There are three different phases, R phase, Y phase and B phase. R phase winding is separated by an angle of 120 degrees from the B phase and the Y phase. Similarly, B phase winding is separated by an angle of 120 degrees from the R phase and the Y phase. So like this, actually all the three windings are separated by an angle of 120 degrees to each other mechanically. So that actually you can clearly notice, because actually the mechanical activity you can see with your own eye. That means the windings are distributed. So one R phase here, Y phase here and B phase here. But the time angle is different. So the time angle is, what is happening is, time angle will decide the amount of the magnitude it is going to generate. That means the length of the vector is actually different for different phases at one particular instant of the time. Now this diagram, whatever I have shown, so this is actually a horizontal one is the time. So this is the time axis. At time 0, if you notice, what is happening is the R phase is having 0 magnitude and Y phase is having the maximum, so certain value actually in the positive side, and B phase will be having the certain value in the negative side. So these are actually equal, but one positive, one negative, and this is having the 0 magnitude. So that means, so this is actually, if you notice from here, actually if you try to consider it, this angle is going to be of 120 degrees from here. So that means this magnitude will be of 60 degrees, I think. So sine of 60 degrees, sine 60 is going to be of root 3 by 2. So this is root 3 by 2 times of maximum flux. And this is also in the negative side. So hence actually this is going to be of root 3 by 2 times of phi m in the negative side. So this will be having, the R phase will be having 0 magnitude, because actually that is at time 0. Now if you consider one more place, suppose actually if you take a random location here, and here actually, so R phase is, so this phase is having one magnitude, this phase is having one more magnitude, and this phase is having one more magnitude. All the values together will decide the amount of the flux that is going to be generated by the armature. So I hope you understood this time angle and the space angle. So is it clear or not? Right? What about you, Aishwarya? Right? Okay. So the space-wise distributed winding will be having different magnitudes at different times. This is the essence of this entire discussion, whatever I had till now. So the space-wise distributed winding, R phase winding here, Y phase winding here, B phase winding here, and this will be having a different magnitude, this will be having a different magnitude, this will be having a different magnitude at different times, right? So at any instant of the time, different values actually are there in three different directions. The sum of all the three vectors together will lead to a constant value. So that value is the maximum flux that is going to be generated. Now let us see how much it is going to be and what is the direction of the resultant flux. Now see this. Now the space winding is actually distributed like this. So let us say this is the R phase winding and this is having a magnitude of phi m. And then actually this is having the Y phase winding and this is having the B phase winding. So this is Y phase winding and this is the B phase winding. And obviously as this is 90 degrees, so as this is 120 degrees. I'll draw a vertical line, and this is 90 degrees, then this is going to be of 30 degrees. And this is also 30 degrees. Now, the magnitudes are different. So this is if it is phi m, then actually this is after an angle of 120 degrees in the negative direction. Then actually, so this value phi m is equal to phi into sine omega t if you call it. And this is phi into sine omega t minus 120 degrees. And this is phi into sine omega t plus 120 degrees. So this is the magnitude of this flux, right? So this value is phi into sine omega t, this value is phi into sine omega t minus 120, and this is phi into sine omega t plus 120. Now the sum of all the three values, if you try to do it, then actually the resultant flux phi r is equal to, so this value is the sum of all. Now when you try to find out the sum of the vectors, it is always advantageous to consider into the resolved component of the vectors along the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. Now this value, if you notice, so this value, if you project onto the plane, so this is horizontal, it is coming like this, and this is phi sine omega t minus 120, and then actually if this is 30 degrees, this is going to be of 60 degrees, then actually cos of 60 degrees, and that is the y phase. And similarly, so y phase horizontal component. Similarly, this will also actually, if you resolve into the horizontal component, then this is going to be of the b phase horizontal component. So this is again 60 degrees. Then actually, if this is 60 degrees, so phi into sine omega t plus 120 cos 60 degrees. Now these two are actually in the negative direction, and this is in the positive direction. Then the phi r is going to be of, so phi m, so this is completely horizontal component. So this is phi m is a horizontal component. So this is phi r h if you call it, then this is going to be of phi sine omega t. If you add it all the things together, so phi r is equal to, which is the resultant flux, so phi into sine omega t minus, so the sum of these two, so this is cos 60 you can take out, then so this is phi into sine omega t plus 120 plus sine omega t minus 120, and this is the resultant flux. So this is phi into sine omega t minus phi into cos 60 is 1 by 2. So phi by 2 into, so sine 120 plus omega t, sine omega t minus 120. So sine c plus sine d. So 2 sine c plus d by 2, sine c plus sine d. Two sine c plus d by 2, omega t plus 120 minus 120, 0. So cos c minus d by 2. So 120 minus 120, so this is going to be of 240. Right? So this 2 will cancel. Phi sine omega t minus phi into, so this is sine omega t, so cos 240. So cos 240 can be written as cos 360 minus 60. So this is going to be of minus cos 60. So this is going to be of 1 by 2. So phi sine omega t plus phi by 2 sine omega t. So this is going to be of 3 by 2 times of phi sine omega t. So this is the horizontal component of the resultant flux. Got it? So is this understood what I have done? So just what I have done was, so this is the horizontal component of the flux for the R phase, and this is the Y phase and the B phase. The magnitudes are different. So magnitudes are actually decided by sine omega t minus 120. This is sine omega t plus 120. Now I have divided into horizontal components and the vertical components. Horizontal component will be in the negative direction to the R phase, and both of the horizontal components actually I have added and then actually subtracted from this, because actually this is in the opposite direction. So the resultant, if I simplify it, this is coming out to be 3/2 times of phi of sine omega t. Got it? Now similarly, we can calculate the vertical components of the flux as well. So the vertical components of the flux is, so this component is vertically upward. So this actually, if you project onto here, then this is phi, this is B phase vertical component, phi sine omega t plus 120. Phi sine omega t plus 120, that is the, so this vector, and projected vertically like this by an angle of 30 degrees, hence actually this is going to be of cos 30. And similarly, this vector actually, if you project onto this vertical plane, this is going to be of, so phi yb, sorry, yv. So this value is phi sine omega t minus 120 multiplied by, so cos of 30. Right? Now actually one is upward, one is downward. So upward minus downward will be the resultant. So the vertical component of the flux, the vertical component of the flux. So this is phi r vertical. So this is, earlier one is for phi r horizontal. So this is phi r vertical is, the upward flux is cos 30 into phi into sine of omega t plus 120 minus cos 30 into phi into sine of omega t minus 120. Now cos 30 you can take it out. So phi r vertical, this is called cos 30, if you take out, that is going to be of root 3/2, and then into phi sine omega t plus 120 minus sine omega t minus 120. So this is root 3 pi/2 sine c minus sine d. So this is 2 cos c plus d/2. So this is cos omega t minus, sorry, into sine c minus d/2. So c minus d/2 is, so this is 120 minus of minus 120. So this is going to be of 120. Sorry. So even here also we made a mistake. So this is actually 120. C minus d/2. Cos of 120. So cos 120 is minus 1/2. Hence actually we can replace it here. So this is 3/2 times of phi into sine of omega t. Okay. So this is of sine 120. So sine 120 is sine 90 plus 30 is cos 30. So cos 30 is going to be of root 3/2. So hence actually root, so this two will cancel. Root 3 phi into cos omega t into sine 120 is root 3/2. So this is again 3 pi/2 cos omega t. So this is phi resultant vertical. So this is phi resultant horizontal. So this is phi resultant horizontal. Now to summarize this, what is happening is phi resultant horizontal is 3/2 times of phi into sine omega t, and phi resultant vertically is 3/2 times of phi into cos omega t. Now we can find out the horizontal component we know and the vertical component also we know. Then the resultant will be always phi is the resultant is equal to horizontal component square plus vertical component square under root. So this is the resultant always. So if you put it in the vector diagram, then the horizontal component is this one. So this is actually horizontal component is 3 by 2 times of phi into sine omega t, and the vertical component is 3 by 2 times of cos omega t into phi. So this angle, if you call this as theta, which is the angle between the two different components theta, then the resultant is this value. So this is phi r. This is the square of this plus square of this. 3 by 2 phi whole square cos square sine square omega t plus 3 by 2 phi whole square sine square cos square omega t under root. From this actually 3 by 2 phi whole square, if you take out from the root, then this is going to be 3 by 2 phi, and square root of sine square omega t plus cos square omega t, and this value is 3 by 2 phi. 3 by 2 phi. So this is 1.5 times of phi. Now we can see. So this is the resultant vector. Now if you try to understand this, whenever there is a three-phase system, so the winding is distributed spatially by an angle of 120 degrees, then actually there is going to be a magnetic field that is going to be induced when there is an armature current flow, whether it is a motor or a generator. In the armature, the winding is distributed spatially for RYB phase at an angle of 120 degrees. And then actually there is going to be a current that is going to be drawn from the source, or actually if there is a current that is going to be flow through the armature, whether it is a motor or generator. If you supply the power, that is a motor. If you take the power from there, then it is going to be a generator. But structurally there is no difference. But there is a flow of current. If there is a flow of current, obviously there is going to be a magnetic field. That magnetic field is distributed in such a way that it is going to have a flux of magnitude 1.5 times of the maximum flux. That is, whenever we try to explain, so phi m sine omega t we call this. So phi m sine omega t, this is the maximum flux. And for this maximum flux, actually 1.5 times of one phase flux. One phase maximum flux. If you take R phase, for the R phase maximum flux, you multiply a factor of 1.5 times. That will be the resultant of all the three fluxes together. So we have the R phase, Y phase and B phase flux. The sum of all the phases, if you consider the time angle and the space angle, it is going to lead an amount of 1.5 times of the phi. And this flux actually, if you notice, this is going to be a rotating flux. And the angle with respect to the rotor, if you try to consider it, so this is the angle with respect to the rotor. So the angle theta with respect to the rotor, the field R, and this is tan theta can be given as 3 by 2 phi times of cos omega t divided by 3 by 2 phi times of sine omega t, and these two will cancel. This is going to be of cot omega t, but cot omega t can even be written as tan of pi by 2 minus omega t. That means tan theta is equal to tan of pi by 2 minus omega t, meaning theta can be written as pi by 2 minus omega t. So this is a very, very important result. Now this theta, if you notice, it is dependent on the time. So if it is dependent on the time, that means the rotating magnetic field or the magnetic field, whatever we have calculated at the magnitude as 1.5 times of phi, it is dependent on the time. That means the magnitude is constant, but the angle at which it is going to be generated is dependent on the time. That means, suppose actually, if you take a alternator like this, and this alternator actually will be having its own pole like this. So this is the pole. This is the pole. Let us say this is the north pole and this is the south pole. And it is trying to rotate in the clockwise direction like this. So it is rotating in the clockwise rotation like this. Now, this is the main field flux. So the main field flux is actually in this particular direction. So this is how actually the main field flux is actually distributed. Now, this main field flux, when it is intersecting with the armature, which is distributed on this particular stator, and that armature winding actually, as there is a current that is going to be flown, and that current induces a magnetic field, that magnetic field will be of that way that it is going to be at an angle of given by, so this is the resultant flux. So this is the armature flux. This armature flux actually, it is having an angle theta given by pi by 2 minus omega t. So this is the angle actually it is going to make with respect to this main field flux. So pi by 2 minus omega t. So this is pi by 2 minus omega t. This is the angle it always makes. Now, if this is the angle, that means if this is rotated like this field flux also is rotated along with. That means actually these two are separated like this. These are actually rotating like this. So these two are actually, so this is the main field flux and this is the armature field flux, and these two are separated by an angle and both are rotating at an angle of synchronous. So at a speed of synchronous speed. So this is also rotated at synchronous speed. Why we can conclude this as synchronous speed is because actually this is dependent on the time. So if this is dependent on time, this is also dependent on time. So this omega t is nothing but the angular frequency. That angular frequency is decided by the speed of this particular rotor because that is the power generation capacity. So this is generating the power which is having a frequency of omega, and along with that omega at the same time it is dependent on the armature flux generation as well, because the armature power is going to be generated by the main field. So hence actually these two are actually always interlinked each other, and these two are actually going together in a continuous manner. So this is the general phenomena. So the magnitude of this field flux is, so this is actually armature field flux. This armature field flux and this is the main field flux. So this is the main field flux. And this flux is the armature field flux. Now these two are actually intersecting each other, hence actually there is something called the armature reaction. So phi mean and phi AR will be interacting each other. The process is called armature reaction. Now the effect of this armature reaction on the main field flux, actually this can be analyzed in different ways. So the effect of armature flux on the main field flux with different cases. The first case is unity power factor. So why we have to consider as different power factors case is, the first thing is this flux actually is getting generated by the current drawn by the load. So that means load is deciding how much is the current and what should be the direction of this particular current, because the load is actually, it is connected with a three-phase load here. So this load current, is decided by the load. That means how much is the armature reaction it should have depends on what is the load that is getting connected here, because this decides the amount of the armature current that it is going to draw. So if that is the case, then this can draw a unity power factor load. That means actually if it is purely resistive load, then the voltage induced in the armature and the current drawn from the armature will be in phase. So that is what we call as the unity power factor. So when the ER and IR are in phase, then the load is called unity power factor load. So I have taken R phase. The same is the case for the B phase or the Y phase as well. So, but in all the cases, actually assuming this is a balanced load, so the R phase and the B phase and the Y phase actually will be drawing the unity power factor load. Now, if it is unity power factor load, then actually this omega t will be as it is. That means this rotation and this rotation will be exactly same. The angle difference between them is always maintained pi by 2 degrees. So that means if it is a unity power factor, then the armature flux will be exactly at 90 degrees to the main flux. Hence, it is purely cross magnetizing. In nature, obviously, right? So that means actually if this is the main field flux and this is the armature flux and these two are actually at 90 degrees to each other, so hence actually it will completely distort the main field flux. So it will disturb it. That means it will distort it will change the direction of it. But actually it is not exactly opposite to the main flux. So hence actually only distortion of the flux actually it is going to happen. So the distortion of the flux actually will try to have an effect on the armature induced EMF again in an uneven way of distribution of the EMF generation. So that is the effect. So this is what we call as the distorted field, or actually this is called as the cross magnetizing effect will be there in case the load is of unity power factor. It is purely cross magnetizing. Now we take another case. If the load is case 2, if the load is purely inductive, if the load is purely inductive, then so the angle is 90 degrees lagging. That means the angle theta, which is the separation of the angle, this is going to be of pi by 2 minus. Now it shouldn't be omega t minus pi by 2. So because actually this is lagging by an angle of 90 degrees. That means actually if the load that is going to be connected is of purely inductive in nature, then this is going to be of omega t minus pi by 2. So this is going to be of pi by 2 plus pi by 2 minus omega t. That means this is going to be of pi minus omega t. That means the angle difference between the main field flux and the armature field flux, if you notice, so this is the main field flux and the armature field flux is at 120 degrees to this. So this, so 180 degrees to this. So hence actually this is purely demagnetizing. So this is purely demagnetizing in nature in case if the load is of purely inductive in nature. Now case 3. If the load is purely capacitive, then the load current will lead the EMF by 90 degrees. So if it leads the 90 degrees, then theta is going to be of pi by 2 minus omega t. Instead of it is going to be plus pi by 2 because actually it is leading by 90 degrees. So if it is leading by 90 degrees, then this is going to be of pi by 2 minus pi by 2 will cancel out, minus of omega t will be left over. That means this is purely additive in nature. So there is no angle difference. That means if this is the main field flux direction and this is the phi main, then the armature reaction flux also will be exactly in the same direction. So this is the armature reaction flux. So these two are actually will be added together and it will go in the exactly the same manner. So this minus omega t, don't get confused with this minus omega t because this shows the direction of the omega t angle theta. That means the direction of the rotation. So this minus implies that the clockwise rotation. So the rotor is rotated in the clockwise direction. Along with that, actually, the armature flux is also following in the clockwise direction. When it is following, if it is a purely resistive load, then actually it is going to be purely 90 degrees later it is following. And if it is purely inductive, then actually it is going to be of exactly opposite. Hence, actually, that's what we call as the demagnetizing. So this is, in the case 2, this is demagnetizing in nature. Demagnetizing in nature. Now, in this particular case, purely magnetizing in nature. So this is what is the armature reaction effect on the main field flux. Got it? So this is the complete process. Now this RMF concept is very, very important, rotating magnetic field. So here actually, this is actually we have analyzed for a generator. Suppose if it is a motor, earlier actually the current is drawn. Now the current is injected because actually it is a motor. So the same concept actually if you try to analyze it, then if you try to inject the power or actually if you try to inject the current, now all these cases, so if it is a unity power factor, then actually it is going to be of the cross magnetizing in nature. If it is a lagging load, then actually it is going to be a magnetizing, not the demagnetizing. If it is a generator, it is a demagnetizing. If it is a motor, it is magnetizing because actually the current direction is changed. Obviously, the flux direction also will be changed. So if it is a flux direction is changed, then actually demagnetizing will become magnetizing and magnetizing will become demagnetizing. So if the current that is going to be injected into the motor is going to be of lagging in nature, then it is going to be of magnetizing. If it is leading, then it is going to be of demagnetizing if it is a motor. Suppose if it is a generator, the same thing whatever we have analyzed. So for the case of the generator, if it is a lagging load, it will be demagnetizing. If it is a leading load, it is going to be of magnetizing. For unity power factor, it is always cross magnetizing. Got it? Any questions on this understanding? Is this clearly understood what is meant by this armature reaction in the case of the three-phase machines? So what about you, Jansi? Yeah, fine. So now the takeout from this is the rotating magnetic field derivation I have done. So that rotating magnetic field derivation for the case of the armature reaction I have done. The same concept exactly will be used in the case of the induction machines. The process of induction machines is first actually there is going to be a stator. So the concept of induction machine, I'll just introduce here because this is more relevant here. And this is the stator. For this stator actually there is going to be a three-phase supply that is going to be provided. So this is R, Y, B phase. So the power is supplied. The winding is distributed in such a manner that it is distributed by a space by an angle of 120 degrees to each other for all the three phases. And then actually the stator actually will be having the supply connection. And then actually this is supplied with a three-phase supply. So this is the stator winding and the rotor is like this. Now what happens is we just proved that if you give a three-phase supply which is distributed space by 120 degrees to each other, and this is the R phase and this is the Y phase and this is the B phase winding, then so this is actually we can separate it like this. So yeah, like this. So this is R phase region, Y phase region, B phase region. Now if it is distributed this way, this is a rotor. Forget about whatever is there inside. Now what happens is this distributed winding which is connected with a three-phase supply, we just proved that it is going to generate a magnetic field of magnitude given by phi into sine, so phi into 3/2 times of phi into sine omega t r. Magnitude wise if you calculate it, 3/2 phi actually is the magnetic flux that is going to be generated by this. And this magnetic flux actually will be in this particular direction and this is rotating in this direction. So at synchronous speed, rotates at synchronous speed. So it rotates at synchronous speed. See this, just by connecting a three-phase supply, automatically it establishes a flux which rotates in the at synchronous speed. So the flux is rotated at synchronous speed automatically. Then if there is a rotating magnetic field actually just produced by a stator which is statically there but connected with a three-phase supply, then this is just simply an iron core. So simply just an iron, no way connected anywhere. Simply an iron piece if you put it, just like a nail if you put it, then actually suppose let us say this is the nail and this is a magnetic field of magnitude 1.5 times of phi m, and this is continuously rotated like this. So if it is continuously rotated like this, then actually it will always intersect with this iron piece. So if it is intersecting with iron piece, obviously there is going to be an EMF induced in this iron piece. Suppose if you put the copper bars also on top of it, then actually there is going to be a huge amount of the current that is going to be flown within this. So this is simply isolated part, no way connected anywhere. The magnetic flux which is generated by the three-phase supply and it is automatically rotated at synchronous speed. Hence, actually, it is automatically intersecting, even though if it is statically there. Now, if it is statically there, obviously there is going to be EMF introduced. So EMF induced because there is a magnetic flux cut. Now, if there is a magnetic flux, then the EMF automatically, if it is short circuited with the copper bars, then actually there is going to be a circulating currents within this particular iron part. So this circulating current actually will induce one more flux. Obviously, as there is a current flow, obviously you can expect that there is going to be a magnetic field that is going to be induced. Now, this current is flown just because there is a magnetic flux cut, and hence actually there is going to be a magnetic field that is going to be induced. Now, as per the Lenge's law, whenever there is an action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. So that reaction is, it tries to oppose the cause of its creation. So the cause of its creation is there is a synchronous magnetic field rotated at synchronous speed. So this magnetic field, if it is rotated, as there is a relative velocity between the static part and this rotating magnetic field, it will try to reduce the relative speed to zero, so that actually there is going to be any more EMF that is going to be induced if you reduce the speed with respect to the synchronous speed of zero velocity. That means this is rotated at synchronous speed, and if it is also rotated at synchronous speed, there is no intersection, obviously, right? So this is the conductor. So my finger, if I say this is the conductor and this is a magnetic field, it will try to cut only if it is statically there. Suppose when this actually it is rotated like this, so this is also going along with the synchronous speed, then actually there won't be any relative motion between these two parts. If there is no relative motion, obviously there is no EMF that is going to be induced. So it always wants to reduce the EMF to zero, because actually it opposes the cause of its creation. How it opposes? By creating an EMF, it generates a current. That current will induce a magnetic field. That magnetic field actually will try to intersect with it, and it will try to attract that. So if it tries to attract, and this attraction is done exactly by locking like this, then actually these two will run at synchronous speed. But the problem is, if these two are running at synchronous speed, then there is no relative velocity. If there is no relative velocity, there is no EMF. So if there is a relative velocity, then only then EMF is going to be induced. If there is no relative velocity, there is no EMF. If there is no EMF, there is no intersection of the flux. Hence, actually, it will try to reduce the speed again. Again, as there is a relative velocity, then actually you can expect that there is going to be an EMF. So that means it always wants to rotate at synchronous speed. But if it comes to the synchronous speed, then actually automatically the EMF induced is going to be of zero. Hence, actually, it will try to reduce the speed. Again, there is an intersection. Then actually it will try to reach the speed. Again, it will reduce the EMF to zero. Like this, actually, this process will be there throughout the running of the induction machine. So these two actually, it always tries to rotate at the synchronous. So magnetic field is anyway fixed rotated at synchronous speed. But this rotor also will try to rotate, but it will not rotate at the synchronous speed. Because if it rotates at the synchronous speed, then actually the EMF is going to be of zero. So hence actually, the induction machine actually will try to settle down at a speed which is a little lesser than the synchronous speed. Suppose if the synchronous speed of 1200 RPM, then actually the induction machine will run at a speed more or less given by maybe 1150 RPM. So it runs at a speed of 1150 RPM. It will never reach the 1200 RPM, because if it reaches, then you can say that actually the EMF is going to be of zero, hence there is going to be a zero magnetic field, hence it stops running. So this process of running the machine is called as the induction machine. So this is the induction machine. Got it? So the armature reaction concept of the synchronous machine is exactly the same application to the induction machine as well. So these are the two important three-phase machines that we need to be aware of it.